Good afternoon. Thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Erin Anderson and I'm the Membership Development Manager here at canfitpro. Canfitpro is hosting the webinar, but we have a great presenter with us today, Scott Josephson from West Palm Beach, Florida. Scott is the Director of Operations at Hippocrates Health Institute, and we're very lucky to have him. And Scott has presented for us before on this topic and has wonderfully to do it again for us. We've had overwhelming response for this area and for this topic and for Scott as well. So just a couple of house rules or house things I wanted to sort of clean up with everybody just to let you know how the webinar is going to go. If Scott, I could just have you move to the next screen for me so that everybody can see that up there. Due to a very large number of people registered today, we have over 100 people on the webinar today, just more signed up, but over 100 on there right now. We're able to accommodate live questions, so if you can just, obviously it's just too hard for us to take those questions and to spend the time to go through all of them, because I know probably many people have lots of questions, but Scott is an awesome presenter and he'll probably answer most of those questions for you during the webinar time. All attendees are muted throughout the webinar, so you won't be able to hear any background music. You'll just be able to hear Scott. And we will have a recording of the webinar and the slide set available for you on our website within about 2 to 3 days after the webinar finishes. And if you just go to our website and click on membership pages, you'll see a menu under there called free webinars, and we usually get it up and on there so that you can click on that to hear it and to view it. The link will come in a follow-up email to this webinar presentation in a couple of days as well, so you'll have a direct link to it. But I guess without further ado, I'll pass it over, and I just want to welcome Scott and thank him very much for being here today. And just to let you guys know that if, because some of you might stop a little bit early because I know you're on work time and so forth, that we do have International Fitness and Club Business Conference and Trade Show coming up. So if you guys want to hear more from Scott, he's going to be at that trade show presenting for us August 11th to 15th, and that's coming up very soon. So if you're interested in seeing more from Scott and hearing more from Scott, he will be at that conference, and you can register for that online on our website. And we also have a consumer fitness and wellness show within that main show, and that's taking place on Saturday, August the 14th. And there's lots to see and do for the consumers within our trade show floor, so we have lots of demos and live demonstrations and things as well. So you can also register for that online on our website as well at www.canfitpro.com. So thank you, everybody, and I will turn this over to Scott now, and let Scott take it away. Thanks, Scott.
Erin, thank you for that kind introduction. I appreciate it. And everybody, thanks for joining aboard. Very, very nice of you to do. I know we're at work, most of us at least, and it's probably a lunch break. And you've given your time to me, so I am always extremely appreciative that you do that. And the bottom line is I'm going to go over a lot of stuff and get it done as time frame allows. And hopefully you walk out of here and say, hey, you know what, I learned 1 or 2 or 3 things. And that's my mission. If you come across and you learn a couple things, and I hit a really big home run in the process. But I definitely do my homework. I've come up with a lot of supplementation, the good, the bad, the ugly, the really popular, the things that people use on a regular basis. And hopefully you can take this and plug this in immediately and make some decision process and what you think is really appropriate, because everybody's looking for an advantage, you, me, and everybody across the board. And that's what we're always going to try to look to do to get stronger and better and faster. And real quick on me, like Erin said, I am a national presenter in the States and in Canada. I'm an extremely proud member of CanFit. I'm on their International Advisory Board, which I'm very proud to be a part of as well. I'll present a bunch in Toronto and also in Halifax. I try my best to get any questions towards the end if I can, if time permits, and Erin's helped me before in the past do this. So jump right into promises and pitfalls and supplementation. And let me just share with you, supplementation, just so you're aware, it means in addition to. And that's really what it's about. If I need vitamin A or B or C or D and I don't get it in my food, I supplement. It means in addition to. And things are billed as ergogenic aids, and they're used to enhance what's known as athletic performance. How can I get better, stronger, faster, bigger in the sport that I play, and what type of component or aid or supplementation can I take that's an ergogenic aid? And this industry's come a long, long, long way. And in Canada and in the States, there is no FDA, meaning Food and Drug Administration, or Health Canada regulation on supplements. They have strapped down a lot on some weight loss things, the Mahong, Guarana, the Ephedras. But the bottom is we can buy stuff. And you got to be careful without regulations. You want to know what's in your bottle. So I'm going to give you some good information on a lot of stuff and walk you through it. But I got to tell you, in the last 1 year, it's become a lot easier because we have something known as the internet. And the internet really allows us to buy and label. It's a much better tool today. They sell products, they make products, they list ingredients. Steroids, if you want, as you can take a look here and see these are all 800 numbers. A guy in a lab coat down there, and it's just a very, very appealing way. Don't you remember, you eat with your eyes and you look with your eyes and we buy with our eyes, and if it looks good, hey, we give it a shot. And sometimes, you know, people spend some money and see if it's worth it or not. Bottom line is the internet has really launched it. And a quick history on supplements, if you go back about 35 years, it was a much different setup. And today, here you can see, you go on the internet, and if you look up at the top right-hand corner, for about $800 U.S. or Canadian money, you get a whole anabolic program of dianabol and androdrol and testosterone and equipoise and Winchell V and HGH, and they'll even tell you how much to use and how often. And it's an amazing tool. Someone wants to sell you everything under the sun and injectables and orals and get you a lot stronger and better and quicker, but it's very, very appealing. And again, here's like a 2.5-month program in the 3.5 months, 14 weeks, to purchase. But go back in time, and this all began. This is 1976, roughly 35 years ago, and here's a of a guy at the beach, and kind of has the big guy beat him up and kick sand in his face, and he goes to this magazine or this little book, and he's going to become the world's greatest, strongest man. And this is where this all started. This is a Charles Atlas ad, and by the way, in 1976, the book was free, and cost you was a stamp, and in the States at that point, it was 8 cents. So there's very minimal cost, you know, to try to learn a few things. But as I shared, the internet has come a long way, and the cartoons of 35 years ago don't sell anymore. Sells today. Until you see today, this is a little bit different. So we skin, we see products, we see people in great shape, and this is very appealing to us. And this is kind of where this all kind of led. The skin cells, and we know that people who look great too, or who are in tremendous shape. And I mean, these again, very racy, very sexy kind of ads that's out there from Gaspari, who's a well-known bodybuilder here in the States, in the New Jersey area, and in the name you trust, the brand that works, etc. So shape and looks always sell too. But look at the difference between this and the cartoon of 35 years ago. And of course, we all know what's going to come next, because sex always sells, and sex always sells, and sex will always sell. And don't run too far, because here it comes, because sex sells. Have it. An interesting ad right there, you know, the most sought-after box on the planet. So forgive me for getting into it, but this is what we see. We eat with our eyes and we buy with our eyes, and this is a perfect, perfect example. So we got to lay down the law and figure out what's going to work and what's going to be good for all of us to decide if we want to take. And if you're going to buy, there's a couple requirements you really want to look into. Understand this, that this is important, because in Health Canada and in the FDA in the States, there's no regulations on stuff. So liars lie and liars make labels, and believe me, they do. You and I can go and buy our own label and put it on our own bottle, and we can have Scott's vitamins and Scott's creatine and Scott's DHEA and Scott's HMB, and we can label it any way we want. There was a small company in the United States out of Delaware known as Reliance, and they were the first company really to label products. So labels lie, liars make labels, and you got to be cautious. You don't really know what's in your bottle. If you buy anything off the shelf, make sure it has an expiration date. No date, dice, don't buy it. You have no idea how long it's been sitting there. Often dosages are labeled much higher than you really need to take them, and that's because the manufacturer wants you to buy it at a faster rate. So if it says take 3 or 4 or 5, sometimes you only need 1 or 2 or 3. So it's labeled much higher than you really need to based upon the dosages, and the manufacturer wants you to buy it at a faster rate. You really want scientific studies behind your product. Who makes it, who wrote it, what companies yielded these studies, not an anecdotal study. Anecdotal means he said, she said. My friend's cousin told me it was great. The magazine told me it was great. My friend from around the corner told me it was great. Some guy in the gym told me it was great. Look at science. Look at American College of Sports Medicine. Look at NCSA. Look at really good journals that say, hey, we yielded studies on these products and they're good. Another really good way is to log on to consumer labs, and that's an independent lab that's checked for dosage, purity, and absorption. And companies pay a lot of money to get their product in consumer lab. And if a vendor or a good product company has nothing to hide, they'll pay the money, and consumer lab will look into this product and really tell you whether it dissolves, whether it's pure, whether there's contaminants, what the real story is behind this product. Often many vendors or manufacturers will not pay $2,500 a product because they say isn't what it is, because remember, labels lie and liars make labels. And if this, you can clearly see, here's a great ad that you and I can put our own names on any one of these products and sell them. Look up top, we can have our own omega-3s, we can have our own digestive enzymes, we can have our own multivitamins, our own phytonutrients, our own joint and muscle support. It's an 800 number. And you have your own name on your own label. No one's going to tell you can't do it. So at the end of the day, what's in your bottle? No quality control. Well, remember that from a label standpoint. Let's get some of the products, and my mission here was to tell you what it is, how to dose it, whether it's good, bad, from the very top. And this is really one of the better ones. And creatine monohydrate's been around for a while. In 1992 in Barcelona, there was a gentleman named Dr. Holtzman, and he's a Swedish physician. And he showed that when these athletes used creatine, it allowed body fat or body creatine to be made by about 30%. Really what it is, it's called methylguanidine acetic acid. It's a fancy name for arginine and glycine, which are amino acids. Your body makes amino acids. There's essentials and non-essentials. Either you get them in food or your body makes them, 14 non-essentials and 9 essentials. And manufactured in your liver, pancreas, and kidneys naturally, this arginine and glycine. And when we eat some meat and fish, it has about 1 gram per every 8 ounces. So again, the body makes this natural creatine. And Holt showed when we do about 20 grams a day, it increases this creatine in the system. Before it was available in a bottle like you see on this screen, actually obtained from urine from animals, so from muscle tissue, before we can actually create a molecule of creatine in water and create a bottle like this. And what it really allows is it allows for us as athletes to perform longer. It allows for longer maximum output for the part. Some pretty good results have been shown with this. Here's some of the research that it has shown. You know, it's shown to increase short-term energy during intense exercise, not the lazy lifter, not the one-pound dumbbell person, someone who's really bringing it home, someone who's really training with great intensity. And what it does is it places more creatine in your muscle cells for faster conversion of what's known as ADP, or adenosine diphosphate, to adenosine triphosphate. Now, we have adenosine triphosphate, ATP, in our system, but it needs to be resynthesized every 12 seconds or so. And that's for explosive movements. Let's use hockey as an example. When there's a fast break down the ice, or they're skating back and forth real quick, or in football when a receiver runs down and runs a pattern, or a linebacker hits someone full speed, or someone sprinting a 100-yard dash. We're not going at half speed here. We're going at full speed. So in the world of fitness, a heavy squats, heavy lunges, heavy bench press, hardcore training, that ATP, and we don't have much of it. And what the creatine does, it allows this conversion into ATP to happen a little bit more rapidly. And that's known as a phosphagen system. Your energy runs on a phosphagen system when you're in high, all-out input mode. So if there's heavy training, it volumizes your cells, it allows a little more water, and it allows this creatine phosphate, the uptake, to get to your system, potentially for more explosive movements. But again, intense exercise required, explosive movements, and also can decrease some of the lactic acid accumulation in your stomach. Now you have to dose it. Loading dose is about 3 grams per kilogram of body weight. So first you want to do is divide your weight by 2.2. That's what you weigh in kilograms. And when you maintain this, you take 10 times less that amount. We want to look at this as 2 months on and 1 month off. So let me share with you how to do this. If you're a 150-pound male or female, by example, and you can see the example I put up on the screen, let's divide your weight by 2.2. So if my subject or my student or my trainee is 150, I divide him or her by 2.2. They weigh 68 grams. And I load 0.3 grams per body weight. So 68 times 0.3, you can see, is 20 grams a day for loading. And 10 times less, meaning 2 grams a day for maintenance. In a 2-month cycle, you run 1 week of this for loadings. So 1 week is 20 grams. The next 7 weeks is 2 grams, if that's your weight, or whatever you weigh. It's 10 times less. So again, simple math, take your weight divided by 2.2. That's what you weigh in kilograms, and 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight for 1 week. Next 7 weeks, which equals 2 months time duration, times less. And in the next bullet point, 2 months on, 1 month off. Now, if I were to do 20 grams a day, if I weighed 150 pounds like this is my example, it's about 5 grams at a time. So don't take in 20 grams, you need to go 5 grams at a time. And if it was 5 grams at a time, it might be 4 times a day. You're only going to urinate out the rest of it because your body will only absorb about 5 grams at a time, give or take. If you take it with some simple sugar, known as Gatorade or Powerade, it's very successful. It allows the insulin to get into your cells at a very rapid point. There's a product by EAS, which is Experimental Applied Sciences, and EAS Phosphagen HP, which is plain white creatine, simple white chalky creatine, and they mix it with some dextrose or some grape sugar to give it some flavor. And no disrespect to the company, but they charge you a lot of money for it just to add some simple table sugar. You don't need it. Get the plain white creatine, mix it with some grape juice or orange juice so it's a quick hit of carbohydrates, get your cells at a very rapid rate. Like any good substance, there's always potential harm. Too much shuts your body down, or the ability to make it or absorb it. Your muscles will volumize from water retention, which is always the case, and it can cause dehydration. You have to drink much more water than you normally would. No fluid requirements for everybody every day is half your body weight in fluid ounces. Not 54 ounces or 8-ounce glasses, half your body weight in fluid ounces. You need at least that much, especially doing this. Now, creatine is a bit contraindicated as well if you take caffeine. So if you have caffeine, creatine might negate or might be negated by the effect of caffeine. Doesn't if you have coffee or tea, it's going to knock it off the path, but it might not absorb as well if there's caffeine in your system. There's always stress on your kidneys to excrete the unabsorbed amount of creatine because you stopped your body's natural process of making it. Here in the States or in Health Canada, it's not regulated, which caused a very lax control. So at the end of the day, you're not really sure what's in your bottle. So a precaution. But overall, one of the few supplements that certainly has some very good backing behind it, used in Barcelona, used in the Olympics, increases the adenosine triphosphate to our system. But 2 months on, 1 month off, and in the 2 months, load 1 week, and then maintain for 7. And use weight divided by 2.2 and 0.3 grams per kilo of body weight. Really a pretty good product for the most part for all strength. Now, today time we have some high-tech creatine as well, and these are very common pieces. One's called No Explode, the other one's called Cell. And what they did here in No Explode is they added taurine, which is an amino acid, and the particular amino acid helps increase the creatine uptake in your system and also increase the ATP, or the adenosine triphosphate levels. So in a nice way, it's marketed pretty, and it allows the creatine to get into your system a little quicker by adding this taurine, which is amino acid. It also was smart, and they added electrolytes, which is sodium, magnesium, potassium, and chloride in the mix for extra hydration. Since creatine is a dehydrant, you need a lot more water, so the electrolytes for excellent hydration. Pretty good product. Now, Cellmass did something similar too. Instead of adding taurine, they added glutamine, and that's another non-essential amino acid. And glutamine is a very good healer. When we train with great intensity, we break our body down, we beat up some muscle tissue and some tendons, and the glutamine is a good repairer or a healer, and often when we drink whey protein, it has some glutamine in it. It starts the rebuilding and the repairing process of our body. And it has an anti-catabolic amino acid, which is really what glutamine is. It helps prevent the breakdown. Catabolism, meaning the opportunity for your body to break down, will severely decrease muscle building opportunity. Always try to be anabolic, meaning a build-up type environment, as opposed to a catabolic, meaning a breakdown type environment. What both products do is they dilate blood vessels. And when your blood vessels are dilated, it allows more blood flow, so you have that very intense, more pumped feeling, more oxygen, more blood flow to muscles. So this is a newer version of creatine. Again, No Explode and Cellmass, by adding different amino acids to the mix for hydration, and adding a particular amino acid as glutamine with an anti-catabolic up to it, so it prevents the breakdown and starts the healing process a little more rapidly. Here's another interesting one that is more testosterone and an estrogen converter, or a precursor, meaning it converts into it. And long name, dehydroepiandrosterone, or known as DHEA. And this is produced in the adrenal gland naturally by most of us. and the adrenal gland, meaning hormone central, which controls a lot of things in our body, your mood, your hunger, your sex drive, your appetite, your body temperature. So real important how it affects that. Now, most women derive about 75% of estrogen, which is your primary hormone, and men testosterone, as when men derive about 50% of testosterone from this particular hormone known as dihydroepiandrosterone, or DHEA. When we're very young, we have a lot of it. When we're at 25, your body has a boatload of this. And then when we get older, 60 and 70, this particular hormone drops drastically. So it's kind of marketed in an interesting way, more of a anti-aging type of supplement. Now, only apes and humans have a DHEA cycle. So testing it on rats and mice for its efficacy, they have the same DHEA cycle as you and I do. You can see, again, at 25, we have a ton of it, but really marketed as an anti-aging type setup because we lose a lot of it. Now, here's my rats and mice on the bottom, and I use them as test subjects. That's what companies do. They don't market it, and they don't test humans because good studies are time-consuming, expensive, and you need a large number of subjects. And not all organizations are going to go out and do that. They use rats and mice, and they produce far less. And you know what far less is? 1/10,000th of the DNA that you and I have. So, again, pretty small portion. Human studies have shown weight loss, and it is an LMT, meaning lean muscle tissue. And why not? It's estrogen and it's testosterone. It's a strength-driven motor, and certainly an increase in the sex drive because testosterone and estrogen are your primary sex hormones. Now, there are problems long-term with this because a large increase in test and estrogen might be linked to certain cancers and might affect glucose tolerance, meaning the body's natural ability to make sugar. So you can look at this overall and say, listen, do I really want to alter my testosterone and my estrogen, what's known as an OTC, an over-the-counter supplementation? So all you got to be a little cautious on this one. Now, the cycle, if you look at the bottom of the screen, that's someone's age, and you can see at birth there's a very high element of DHEA. And then at age 25, you can follow the graph, and people have a lot of it, and then it slowly tails off. So that's why it's marketed a bit as an anti-aging supplement. When I mentioned before that labels lie and liars make labels, take a look at this. These research labs, this SRI is actually in southern Florida down here, and they examined 16 random products. 6 random products. One had none of it, no DHEA. 2 claimed had 25 milligrams, but when the tests were done, it showed it had 0.5 milligrams of the product. 4 products contained half of what they claimed. Others on the internet and other products will claim that wild yams that are grown like in the Arizona desert or in the western portion of the United States convert to DHEA, and there's absolutely no proof in the pudding that wild yam extracts convert to DHEA. This is a product that alters testosterone and estrogen naturally. It's an over-the-counter product. You've got to be a little cautious in taking it. But again, your estrogen levels will elevate and your testosterone levels will elevate. Another that ties into that mode too is this one. And this is called beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate. And what it is an offspring left over, a metabolite of leucine, another non-essential, one of 14 non-essential amino acids the body has. It really converts to a very small percentage of leucine, about 5%. And the key from this product is it's going to decrease your muscle protein breakdown, meaning you're not going to break down as much when you train. It's going to increase in overall strength. The research on this, mostly on animals, like I said, because most studies are time-consuming and expensive and need a large number of subjects, shown an increase in muscle protein synthesis and an increase in the immune system. You'll find this actually in baby formula for children, because sometimes one of the primary things we want to do for newborns is obviously increase the immune system because they're so prone to ending very rapidly since they're brand new in life. This product naturally is found in a couple areas. Catfish is one, fruit is another, and breast milk is a third. And again, that's where that immune system formula comes from, HMB, or beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate. Now, during an intense workout, and again, this is for intense workouts, the body does not synthesize enough HMB during stress. That's why it's marketed in the fitness field. That's why it's sold in an opportunity to help increase this beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate back into the system. It's not cheap. It's about $40, give it for about a 2 to 3 week cycle of it, and somewhere between 3 to 5 grams a day seems very safe, no effects on it. So again, these are all over-the-counter type of hormones, just this one. And these prohormones known as androstenedione or androstenediol, and there's other alternatives with a different chemical composition, and that's known as norandrostenedione or norandrostenediol. And those of you who are huge sports fans, sort of like I am, a crazy sports fan, this guy McGuire was one heck of a hitter. And in 1998, he hit 70 home runs. He just hit the cover off the ball. He did some interview with him, and what do you know? They walk into his locker room, and they find sitting on a little shelf androfuel. So it opens up a whole big can of worms of androfuel. What is this, and why are you taking it, and what's it all about? And prohormones, really what they are, is steroid hormone. It converts to testosterone for men, estrogen for women. And this andro type of drug, or this androstenediol or dione, this over-the-counter component, increases lean muscle tissue tremendously, strength and libido. It's very highly anabolic. And in 2005, these prohormones, they were banned and tested by the International Olympic Committee, the National Football League, and certainly the NCAA. And what happens with hype is hype equals controversy, and that's when this all became very controversial. And controversial equals, or controversy, I should say, equals sales. And it's a dormant product. It sat on shelves. It sold a little bit. And in 98, it sold $20 million worth of product. So that's a pretty big jump because he was a star and he hit the heck out of the ball. Now, when we're looking at prohormones, because they convert naturally to testosterone and estrogen, there's too much testosterone, gynecomastia, maybe liver damage, low sperm count, and more important for men, prostate and pancreatic cancer. This can lead towards that. And post-35, for sure, post-40, men need to get a prostate exam, and post-35, I think for women, to test their thyroid. Too much of this for females, or too much estrogen, maybe amenorrhea or the loss of a cycle, and the body has to have a stressor every 28 days from a female standpoint, give or take. I'm sure females aren't interested in that, and maybe liver damage, which again, your liver and your kidneys you need to keep clean. There is a form of testosterone or estrogen done in an androstenediol. It needs to happen with an anti-estrogen product, such as Novadex or something to counterbalance the anti-estrogen component. Because this turns to testosterone, this turns to estrogen, so there's certainly risks. And many of the risks are varied and extremely unpredictable. Your body has hormones that have different formations, and they're under the control of body chemicals and enzymes. It's a very different setup here. If you're going to do it, you take morning. Testosterone peaks early in the morning, especially for men, and it's a pretty good time to try to get it in. 50 to 100 milligrams seems to be fairly safe, but again, what you're doing is you're altering your body's natural ability to produce testosterone and estrogen in what's known as an over-the-counter product. Market here on the Dow in the States or any type of money market in Canada or anywhere else, companies put this is testosterone for men by drug companies, and many ads are out there. Are you fatigued? Are you depressed? Do you have a low sex drive? Not what you used to be. And again, this is marketed as the fountain of youth, and testosterone replacement therapy makes a lot of claims, and it doesn't always address the real safety. Old men who are doing it, and it's hard to define what older men might be, but men prone to prostate cancer, just like women have to deal with other issues as well, and it might lead to some health risks and metabolic syndromes down the road. So you've got to take a look at really a product that's an over-the-counter testosterone product and really approach it with caution. One of the best ways is to do what's called CBW, or complete blood work, before you go on anything. Make sure your blood's nice and clear, because again, this is your liver and this is your kidney, and you don't want to mess too much with that. You want to keep that nice and in check. I mentioned before glutamine, because glutamine anti-catabolic amino acid, and this is really a good one. And glutamine is a great healer. It's a pretty simple product, and the way it is, it's a non-essential, meaning your body makes it, and you can see it's found in a few products. We eat beans and meat and fish and poultry and dairy, and it has glutamine, and it's a helpful healer. And when your body becomes depleted with severe metabolic stress, meaning great intense training, we're really bringing it on, is needed. And at times when we have stressors like very low-calorie diets, minimal sleep, we overtrain, your body releases cortisol, you become catabolic as opposed to anabolic. Glutamine can help. It's a pretty good recovery tool. And what it does, it releases in your system lymphocytes and macrophages, which is your body's cleanup crew, your body's healing crew. When you get cut for shaving, or you fell on the ground, or you scraped your leg, it turns into a little scab, and then the scab heals. And that lymphocytes and macrophages from your body is your natural healing crew. And this helps promote the lymphocytes and macrophages in your system. The other thing glutamine does is it really promotes nitrogen retention. And that retention really, really helps prevent muscle protein loss. And nitrogen retention also promotes an anabolic or a build-up environment. So very good to help increase lean muscle tissue. Pretty good product for the most part. Good research has shown that it decreases muscle tissue breakdown, and it also can increase muscle protein synthesis and growth hormone, which is very appealing, especially to men. The women who are out there listening, you're lucky you have all the growth hormone, which is a great tool to have, and when I talk about growth hormone, you'll see why. But guys don't have much. We have a lot of testosterone, minimal growth hormone, and that helps increase a lot of tendon strength for a lot of reasons. Helps increase your immune system. Taking this too keeps your immune system pretty strong, and might also decrease leaky gut syndrome, bacteria that's found in your colon. So it keeps your colon tract clean. It's a good overall healer. A risk too much of one amino acid like this can help decrease the absorption of others. You and the toilet might be friends if you take too much of this. It might potentially have a GI upset, but again, if you take too much, and a good dosage is about 5 to 10 grams either pre and post-workout, or pre or post, either way, but 5 to 10 grams a day seems very, very safe. Intense workouts really use glutamine rapidly to help replenish in the system. So overall, a very good amino acid, often found in your protein shakes with glutamine. Really a good process for healing. Product out there for quite some time too, and marketed very differently, is chromium picolinate. And chromium picolinate, instead of building and gaining a lot of lean muscle tissue, really seemed to work quite well in a low carbohydrate environment. And let's say someone is on a low-carb diet, competing for a show, not consuming a lot of carbohydrates. This actually helps put insulin into cells, and that's why it was kind of used, and it's a fairly product in the most part. And when you look at products like Herbal, it always has a picture of somebody in terrific, terrific shape. Not real big, but real lean and real cut, real nice symmetry. And that's where chromium picolinate kind of is marketed, from a low carbohydrate. And you can find it in yeast and prunes and cereal and nuts and mushrooms and bread. About 50% of your typical diet, almost regardless of what you eat, has chromium, but it's low in absorption. Doesn't absorb well. That's why you bind it with this picolinate to help increase the absorption. And then why you take it, if you look at the last bullet point, it helps increase carbohydrates and insulin metabolism. So it gets insulin into your system for the most part if you're in a low carbohydrate environment. Research has shown that it does help push the amino acids and the carbs into muscle cells, especially in a low-carb environment. It does absorb slowly, so much might lead to liver or kidney damage. And again, I can't be more clear on this. Those are two things you got to keep clean in your system. From food, from drink, from whatever, those things that really need to be cleaned. It's where you get great absorption. And on the process of supplementation, you got to be cautious, because things absorb in your liver and your kidneys as well. Risk factors, some reports showed chromosome damage, which is serious. That's a serious complaint to have. Headaches and moodiness, I guess I can deal with, but chromosomes X and Y's, again, approach with caution here. Bind whether you take it or you don't. About 50% of your typical diet has some chromium in it, and especially with some of the foods that we consume. Dose is fairly low, about 100 to 200 micrograms per 2,000 calories, give or take, for the most part. So fairly simple to obtain, fairly easy to get, no problem with that. When we move on to some of the next pieces here as well. Let me just work my slides. There we go. Nitric oxide, interesting piece here, okay? What you have here, it's a messenger. It's a messenger between cells, and what happens when messengers and cells interact, we have enzymes which help break food in the liquid form and break down one of our amino acids. And what the amino acid is what's known as arginine. And arginine and ornithine are two very good amino acids for helping increase strength. This arginine, this amino acid, created to a substance known as nitric oxide gas. This is interesting because in females, it's found in the placenta, this natural nitric oxide gas known as gonadotropin. So in some form it's in females, but for men it can become very appealing. Because this increased gonadotropin mimics another hormone known as lutropin in men. So when men take it, this gonadotropin mimics this lutropin. And lutropin is a primary hormone to make testosterone. And the more testosterone, again, the greater potential we might have for increases. So very appealing for men for the most part. Tested and tested by many different organizations. So it's interesting how the gas converts to this gonadotropin, which mimics lutropin. Again, it's chemical science. But at the end of the day, it increases testosterone because it has lutropin. When you look at the general ingredients here, too, when you increase gonadotropin and blood flow and some adrenaline and decrease inflammation, that's exactly what Viagra is. It helps get blood flow to areas of the body. And that's, again, the nitric oxide component. So pretty simple product of an amino acid that breaks down to a gas, creates gonadotropin, mimics lutropin, another male hormone, to help make testosterone. At the end of the day, a pretty good strength type component overall, so you can see what's going on. That nitric oxide gas, pretty good. Now, when you look at beta-alanine, another thing, an amino acid type piece, and this is another piece of amino acid that helps produce something known as carnitine. Carnitine is found in red meat, so we can certainly eat it there, and there's a very high percentage of carnitine in what's known as fast-twitch muscle fibers. And when fast-twitch muscle fibers, that's where we get our greatest strength potential in fast-twitch muscle fibers. Now, our body doesn't have a whole lot of them. About 45% of our body is made of these fast-twitch muscle fibers, and about 55% of twitch muscle fibers. So we really like to increase fast-twitch muscle fibers to get great strength gains. Taking this does a couple other things. Help increase your body's natural alkalinity, might delay low acid as well, but for intense recovery and gains in performance is pretty good substance by increasing the body's natural ability to make carnitine. And where's that found? Fast-twitch muscle fibers. You want to get strong, you have to increase fast-twitch muscle fibers in our system. For 2 months on and 1 month off there. Okay, we lost our slideshow for a second. So bear with me. There we go. Sorry if you had a little change in your slide there. Muscle milk, another interesting component that's out there too. At the end of the day, what muscle milk really is a whole lot of different proteins all built up. And if you look down towards the third or fourth bullet point, it's whey protein and peptides and casein, different kinds. Look at the muscle milk ad, and you can see the calories here are fairly high, the total fat is fairly high, the saturated fat is fairly high, and the protein's certainly adequate. So what you have here is a fairly high protein cocktail with carbohydrates, fats, calories, and some money. Claim is interesting. It says that it rebuilds, repairs, and burns fat. Burn fat is a very tough thing to do. It's a thermodynamic process, and that's a strong claim for a company to share and to increase lean muscle tissue, again, just by drinking a lot of protein with saturated fat. The really is a high-protein concoction with some saturated fat. Amino acids are good in it. It certainly contains creatine. But overall, if you break it down, you're paying some money for a protein concoction with a whole lot of saturated fats built into it as well. Your choice to take it, but I like to look underneath the ingredients so you can really see what you're talking about. Potassium not bad, carbs fairly low, adequate protein, but a lot of fat in 18 grams serving. So certainly brings that number up because that's what you're consuming, a lot of fat, minimal carbs, and spending a lot of money on an overall mixture of a lot of proteins. And too much protein can become a problem. It decreases the body's ability to absorb calcium too. So again, increasing calcium absorption is a problem, especially for women, and maybe increasing mucoid plaque, and that's where you have a plaque built up in your small intestine where a lot of absorption occurs. And too much protein might increase this plaque in the small intestine, so you get minimal absorption of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and macronutrients, which is certainly things that we need. Note to check out, too, was very interesting to break this one down. This is a New Jersey physician named Dr. Summers. He invented this particular product. It's a plant compound, and if you look at the right side of the slide, you can see what the plant products really are. Not a steroid, but a real plant product. And what he says it does, you get some increase in cell size, an increase in lean muscle tissue, and strength beyond recruitment. And what recruitment means is fast twitch muscle fibers. When you recruit fast twitch muscle fibers in training, again, greatest strength potential really occurs. But again, there's a catch to this. In order to recruit beyond recruitment, you train beyond exhaustion. And exhaustion means, hey, I really got to bring this to traumatize my particular muscle tissues. So a full body workout probably wouldn't work well on endothel. You'd have to look at one body part, either chest, back, shoulders, buys, tries, legs, whatever you broke it down into. Took one body part and actually really worked super hard days in and days in over time, where you would have fatigue or muscle exhaustion. And apparently this product, again from the claim, helps increase these fast twitch muscle fibers beyond recruitment. It's not banned by the Anti-Doping Association or the International Olympic Committee. It's not cheap. If you did 30 tablets and 2 a day, you have a 15-day supply for about $50. Again, from a plant compound with a catch that we must exercise a single muscle group overall exhaustion. After Dr. Summers invented the endothel, he came out with another product, another one that's fairly popular too, known as Stemulite. Antioxidant, meaning the alpha-lipoic acids in cells, and it works with vitamin C and E, and it's the body decrease free radicals, and that's what antioxidants do. They fight free radicals in our system. And it also has another amino acid known as carnitine, which is found in animals. And what does is it's synthesized from an amino acid known as lysine in our liver and our kidneys, and there's high concentrations of this again in red meat. Now, what carnitine can do is it increases the adenosine triphosphate, sort of creatine. Not the lifter. Strong explosive movements might help increase carnitine in our system, and the alpha-lipoic acids to increase the energy in our system too. So here's the combination. Look at the supplement facts to the right of the screen. You can see the big percentages in that lipoic acid and the carnitine, meaning the L-carnitine or the amino acid. And they do increase adenosine triphosphate, increase energy. The aim from this, too, is to increase the amino acids and the glucose uptake, meaning the body's natural sugars, and decrease some of the blood sugars for insulin. Research, again, very anecdotal. No long research behind this. This is Dr. Summers and Stemulite and anecdotal information that it's a strong antioxidant, which it probably is, and a metabolic booster. About 100 milligrams and about 3.5 ounces to get this carnitine in your system. So again, red meat might be a good way to go to get this carnitine. And not cheap as well. The dosage is, you need 2 in the morning and 2 at night, and on no workout days, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. So you're taking many pills, about $60 for a bottle of 30. So you have about a 2 weeks worth dosage here, and about $60 from a simple amino acid for the most part, known as alpha-lipoic acids and carnitine in red meat. For sure, a little bit of an antioxidant component, but again, risk factor because you're not exactly sure what's in your bottle without a lot of control. And again, no FDA control, no Health Canada control. Which I touched on a little bit before because boy, oh boy, is this ever appealing, and especially to guys. We have a lot of testosterone. Women have growth hormone. It's secreted all day long, especially in pulses throughout the night. And one thing it definitely does, if you look down where it says advantages, it builds strong tendons. And tendons will help you keep up with very fast gains. You have muscles and you have bones. And in between muscles and bones is a tendon. It's a thick, dense tissue. And when we overtrain and we're hurt, we get tendinitis and bursitis and condylitis. And this human growth hormone really helps in the process of bringing up these strong tendons. And what hormone is it's determined at birth. The circuit that we have determines our height and our bone size during puberty, and it greatly promotes this muscle-building synthesis. Now, again, released throughout the day, very high levels at night, and when we have amino acids, it enhances the growth hormone component. Now, there's certainly risks of this, because if you really want to take it, it's an injectable form from a physician. And how do you get real growth hormone? It's obtained from cadavers, people who are dead. And infection from getting this is what's known as Creutzfeldt disease. It's a slim chance. Taking too much of this causes another thing called acromalgy, or extremity enlargements. Your muscles are going to grow. taking this, but your bones grow, face grows, your intestines grow, maybe tumors grow. You physically almost grow out of your skin. Think about who took it was people with stunted growth, and who we gave it to initially. There's synthesized forms of it known as somatotropin that we get from cattle, or serostum from humans, and they're synthesized in the pituitary gland. And it's just a couple of cc's in an injectable form to get. Now, this has become, I hate to say a drug, but a very common staple in Major League Baseball. And I'm a huge sports fan. I grew up around sports my whole entire life, and I've always played on a college level. This really not promoted, but went against the grain in baseball, and that's kind of where this turned out to be. And here guys that got thrown on the bus for some steroid scandals, all for human growth hormone. And run through it quickly for you sports fans there, from Clemens, Bonds, and Mikel Tejada, and Andretti. And you take a look, these are looking at, and Clemens, and I love Barry Bonds, and these guys are great players, but left to right, at the circumference and the size of these guys, from the beginning of their career to the end of their career. And again, nobody wants to testify. Clemens had to go under oath, and Barry Bonds has been afraid to testify and retired. But bottom line, this is where growth hormone leads. And these guys have gone under the microscope in Major League Baseball. They're not the only ones. Look at a couple other players, and forgive me for being the sports fan that I am. But he can Canseco in the top, and then over to the left, he looks a little larger. Mikel Tejada in the middle on the bottom, and then over to the left, he looks a little larger. And Rafael Palmeiro, who was a Hall of Fame career, swore in front of oath that he never used steroids, and of course he got caught. So not about steroids and taking growth hormone, but it certainly leads to increase in tendon strength, which allows you to train with great intensity and potentially decreases the opportunity of injury. You look at a baseball pitcher who throws over and over and over and over and might get tendonitis or bursitis or condylitis. That's a thing to look at. And just like you and I, who train with great intensity, if we work out real hard and are looking for gains, sometimes when you get injured, you can't have gains. So growth hormone becomes extremely, extremely appealing, and that's why I just wanted to throw a few of those in. So it's not a drug, and it's really something that becomes a women's fan favorite known as Clenbuterol. And bronchodilator, which is used for people with asthma. So it opens airways. It allows you to get oxygen into your system. And it is used by bodybuilders, certainly big-time bodybuilders, because it does a couple of things. And look how the appealing things that they do. Metabolism goes up. Breakdown of fat and triglycerides, which is fat in your bloodstream. Muscle endurance allows more oxygen into cells, works quickly, increases body temperature, which is a good thing. When your body temperature goes up slightly from 98.6 to about 99 degrees, it allows you to burn a little bit more energy, work at a little bit of a faster pace. Not a steroid, like I said, but a central nervous system stimulant. Weight loss, especially by females, to increase more endurance. Very appealing. More oxygen to muscles means this individual has more endurance, which means I can do more cardio, which means I might lose more weight. Certainly helps in a catabolic environment, too. Helps get rid of a catabolic environment and increase an anabolic environment, meaning buildup. Feeling, again, steroid. Available in orals and injectables. You'd need a script to get it, but it's available. People find ways to get stuff. But in the field of fitness, and this is the reason why I share stuff with you. It's not about over-the-counter stuff. It's black markets. What's really out there. And my mission is to share with you, this is what it is, and if you want to do it, at least I can give you the pros and the cons from all the homework that I put together. This is another one known as erythropoietin, or really blood doping. And those of you who are cycle fans, you have your Lance Armstrongs and your Floyd Landis and your Tour de France riders, and increase red blood cells. And when you have more red blood cells, it's more oxygen to working muscles. And medically, this is used to increase the erythropoietin in the kidneys so people do not have to do dialysis. So this was really something to treat anemia and to eliminate a transfusion. Risks, though, go in here because you have more blood cells than your body can handle without the increase in plasma. So increased red blood cells without plasma, you're playing with dynamite. And again, now you have more red blood cells than the body can handle. Very, very risky. Makes the blood very, very thick and viscous, almost like Jell-O-like, because a lot of red blood cells, minimal plasma, increasing bone marrow, but a big strain on the kidney. Again, medically used makes great sense. Use an ergogenic aid to increase athletic performance, and this is what happened to Flinders, who won the Tour de France, blood doping. And again, I think Lance Armstrong, as great of an athlete as he is, has evasive in this process the same way Barry Bonds has been evasive with growth hormone. These are advantages, and again, which is known as supplementation or ergogenic aids, increase athletic performance. Now let's gears and go back to the OTCs, or the over-the-counter stuff, and here's CLA. And here's the pretty neat thing in a bottle, pretty amazing here. It's a fatty acid. It's in meat and dairy and processed food, and believe it or not, a pretty high quantity in Cheese Whiz. So if you get yourself a couple tablespoons of Cheese Whiz, you ate yourself some CLA. No product with some pretty good research on it, although it's been done on animals, but the research is pretty solid. Claims here, they stop the fat cells from increasing in size, and that's certainly a good way to go. Research on animals that shows an increase in muscle tissue, a decrease in body fat as well. And humans, too, because there's been some studies here, a decrease in body fat without changing eating habits or without changing lifestyle. Now, that doesn't mean let's go out on a pig-out diet and eat pizza and McDonald's and junk food all day, take CLA, and I'm going to get all strong. But if I stop fat cells from increasing in size and I don't change my lifestyle, it could be one of those fairly good ones. There's a couple of good writers that have some good backing in this, and Kleiner, she's a good writer, Power Eating. Maybe some of you have heard or read of that. Nancy Clark also had a little bit of backing in this too. Louise Ann Gittleman, Super Nutrition for Women. Pretty good. No one wants to back it because of the research done on the rats and the mice, but for you, there certainly has been a pretty good appealing study along the lines. Not a bad product. But again, labels lie, liars make labels. We really don't know the dosage. But a bit of research worth checking into this one. Not a bad one after all. 3s and 6s are just nothing but great. They're just that good. They're essential fatty acids. One that I've learned over a long course of time is they might decrease cravings. That doesn't mean it's going to happen to everybody, but when blood sugars drop low, when we have sugar cravings, this might be one of those things that keep it in check for the most part. You get some simple foods. Polyunsaturated fat is really what it is in your cold water fish. And that's certainly the northern portion of the states. There's salmon, herring, mackerel, and sardine, and you'll always get a good amount of 3s in there. And also in eggs and green leafy vegetables, and a high percentage, too, in the soybeans and flaxseed oils. And flaxseed oil, again, fairly high number. Palm oil and sunflower oil, too. Those are major oils that provide a pretty good amount of these omega-3s. Shows some decrease in the risk of heart disease, of cancer, of arthritis. Pretty substance, again, for the most part. Research, some solid research here, increasing carbohydrate metabolism or the opportunity to burn calories efficiently. Decrease blood pressure, triglycerides, and weight. Now again, too much might cause some bruising and bleeding, so you got to look at the dosage. Remember, labels lie, liars make labels. What's to be safe in the research that I found was about 1 to 3 grams daily of this particular product. But pretty simple, get it in some foods, but a very good omega-3 and 6 as well as 9s, meaning a polyunsaturated fat. Here have become the weight loss tools over the past couple decades, and that's the Mahung, Ephedra, and Guarana, and all those things that are out there. And Health Canada and the FDA have kind of put a stranglehold on a few of these. They make it a little harder now for any of us to try to obtain to get weight loss products that are out there. And really, there are stems of various Ephedra species. These are plants that are grown, and we take the stems, and all of them are caffeine derivatives. It's that easy. When you jack yourself up with caffeine, you're going to run around the house, we're going to get all fired up, and they're hardcore caffeine derivatives in conjunction with this Ephedra species, which dilates blood vessels and increases body temperature. So again, there you have it, in an opportunity to lose weight. And often we buy things known as a stack and take this Ephedra product, whether it's Ephedra-free or not, and they add caffeine and add aspirin. Again, as a blood thinner, thin out, we can work a little bit at a faster rate, but we can also cause overheating. So work in a hot environment, especially like here in South Florida, and you overheat, you dehydrate, you could die. And that's what a lot of athletes with taking this particular product. It started out as a simple herbal tea in China. It was really used for asthma for about 5,000 years, and then it makes its way into the fitness environment, And we use products with willow bark and bitter orange and guarana and hydroxycitric acid, and we stack them with caffeine and aspirin and market beautifully like this picture, and there you have it, is Weight Loss 101 in a bottle. Definitely risks with this. We get a pre-workout, absolutely. You're fired up, you're good, you feel strong, you're ready to happen. You got a little caffeine in you, and you're going to increase your energy, but maybe dangerously. Now, if you're fit and active, you clear sugar as well. If you're not fit and active and you're taking something like this, your body heats, blood vessels dilate, and you're, again, look at what happens when you take stimulants with caffeine: increased heart rate, blood pressure, decrease in appetite, and constriction of blood vessels. In the States, since 2004, been documented of 120 deaths, or 120, and a deconditioned risk, especially for someone who's deconditioned. If you put your focus on fitness like we're all in, athletes definitely have big money contracts. And if an athlete can get into training camp, 30 pounds less, there's a potential that they can make $10 or $20 million more. So everyone's looking for an advantage. Now, athletes have certainly died. And when you autopsies on these athletes, you certainly see that there was Ephedra in the system. Here's 4, just off the top of my head, that you see. And here's Corey Stringer and Daryl Kiley and Ken Caminiti and Steve Belichair, all outstanding athletes making millions of dollars. All, when they died, had an autopsy done. All showed links to Ephedra. Now, did that kill them? I don't know. But was it in their bloodstream in an autopsy? Absolutely. And again, athletes and big money and contracts. Come into camp, be 30 pounds less, ball up a little bit faster, hit X amount of home runs. Everyone's looking for an advantage, especially as a competitive athlete. So this kind of falls into that bracket. Now, kind of wrapping up a little bit, a few other things just to walk you through. A lot of things are marketed as natural and herbal, so be cautious. Remember, labels lie, liars make labels. Be careful what's in your bottle here. Very minimal control. These 4 things that are often labeled this way: fat burners, fat blockers, fat absorbers, and also diuretics. So take a look at what some of these things are. Now, most of these products contain fiber, and fiber is absorbed water, not fat. So when you absorb water, again, it's a dehydrant type of component. Fat burners is really a combination of these ephedra-free ingredients, and it's available like in Stacker 2 and Xanadrine and Trim Spa. So remember, you're taking an ephedra-free product, adding aspirin, and adding caffeine, and charging a lot of money. This stuff is fairly expensive. Things marketed more as blockers consist chitosan. It's a fiber supplement, and it traps fat in very small areas and small balls. It makes it difficult to absorb. And you're on test, and meaning sometimes you're going to get a GI upset taking these products. The absorbers, again, instead of ephedra, they're ephedra-free products, and a combination of St. John's worts. And in Europe, that's what's known as Herbal Prozac, and that's sold as a prescription drug. You can't even buy it over the counter. Now, a majority of all these have short-term studies, if any. Most of them are anecdotal, meaning he said, she said. Most of them had control groups on very low-calorie diets, so this is why they get these claims that people can lose weight, lost their appetite. The thing is diuretics, and when you take diuretics, and this goes back 30, 40 years from very simple products known as dexatrim, and that whole diuretic thing started. Your electrolytes have to be in balance, and that's sodium, magnesium, potassium, and chloride, and you certainly need those. And if the electrolytes go out of balance, could be go in your system. You can just kind of fall over or loss of balance. Your head can spin. So you need to make sure your electrolytes are balanced. And when we sweat profusely, we lose electrolytes. That's sometimes we drink Gatorade and Powerade and things like that. And too much diuretics causes colon irritation. Bumetanide and Lasix, all these can cause your colon to get very inflamed. So some of these with caution. I wanted to at least give you a little sentence about them to share with you what they're made of and what they are. And if you just use them, at least you know. But be careful, because marked as natural and herbal doesn't mean they are. You know, petroleum grows in the ground. That's marked as natural, and that'll kill you. So be a little careful of who's telling you what. And that's put in a yellow flag here, caution. Some products have warnings. And the problem now with some of the herbs that are out there. Here's a few off the top of my head, like yohimbe and ginseng and kava and lipokinetic. Some of these interact very negatively with prescription drugs. Let's assume you're taking a cholesterol medication. and you take some of these herbs. Well, they compete down a pathway to get to your heart and get to your liver. And often some of these herbs will knock that prescription off pathway, so it will be absorbed substantially less and not as effective as you want it to be. And left side of the screen, you can see these journals that have associated a few of these products with liver failure. So herbs are not regulated. Over-the-counter stuff is not regulated. Health Canada doesn't regulate. The FDA doesn't regulate. We've made it harder to get them. We dispense the information out there, but some things certainly work very well, but other things, again, forgive me for being redundant, just approach with a little caution, and these are certainly products with warning. Homework here for you, too. These herbs to the left side of the screen, if you're taking particular medications in the middle of the screen, concerns, you're going to have to be careful about red blood cells, about central nervous system intensity, about hypertension, about clotting, about decreasing the effects of drugs on the immune system. If you're on medications, always approach herbs very cautiously, especially if it's ginkgo or ginseng or mahung, ephedra, St. John's, echinacea, or kava. What goes into this so you can see some of these meds will be knocked off the course, and you're not going to get them as effective as the other stuff. Again, herbs and meds, be cautious because they don't mix all that well. Caffeine, we love caffeine, and I have a good cup of caffeine in the morning, whether it's Starbucks or, oh, please let me, Timmy's coffee, great stuff up there too, love that. So caffeine's pretty neat. It's a drug, coffee, tea, soda, and OTCs, over-the-counter supplementation. Reading on caffeine's pretty good. What it does is it increases your adrenaline. It allows us to get a little buzz going on. It gets us fired up. We can get in the weight room. We can jog. We can run. We can train with better intensity. And it uses up fatty acids. Instead of tapping into our system for glucose and glycogen, it allows us to run on fatty acids for a short window of time, and it spares our muscle glycogen, meaning it lets us exercise longer. Now, caffeine does linger in your system, and caffeine will decrease the absorption of calcium and iron. And what happens is your calcium and iron gets excreted in your urine with way too much caffeine. Now, what is way too much? Some people can drink a cup, others can drink many cups. Really seems to show that it does linger in the system, and really also where caffeine is found is in other OTCs, or over-the-counter supplements, with ephedra and mahung and guarana and stack and aspirin and all those other things. But caffeine allows you to run, so use, abuse, and misuse. Use it to your advantage. Don't misuse it. Bottom line here is if you're decreasing calcium and iron from your system, calcium is needed for bone density, especially for women, low bone density. Very important. Osteopenia, osteoporosis. Ladies, for sure, about 5 years post-menopause, there's about 8 to 10% bone loss naturally. So calcium and iron and magnesium are going to be very important to get in your system. Little caffeine's not going to hurt you. Way too much starts to decrease calcium and iron from your system. Blood test is your best friend every once in a while. A complete blood work done. You know your numbers, and you can see what's going on inside. Think about how well you take care of yourself on the outside. Get a blood test to see what's going on the inside. It's just nature's way. It's a great insurance policy. You can't go wrong. Game out of your time, probably your lunch break. I am so appreciative. I hope you got a little something out of what I shared. I'm very happy that you can join me in attending this. I'm a proud member of CanFit and being on their advisory board. I thank Aaron, and I thank all the great staff on CanFit. And I thank everyone who was out there for listening, for supplements and supplementation and pitfalls and pros and cons. We went through a lot of stuff, and I hope you got a little bit something out of it. I'm Scott Josephson. I really appreciate it. The next stop in Canada is in Halifax next month, and then off to Toronto in August. So I hope I get a chance to see everybody.
Thank you so much, Scott. Very informative, and thank you, everybody, for joining. I did have just one question, Scott. Just wondering if you could provide a direction or reference list which outlines some of the studies done to support some of the claims that or the information you've provided.
Absolutely can. Some of the good stuff that you'll find is on consumerlabs.com. That's a really good place to take a look at. One is called Tufts, as in the school in Boston, Tufts Navigator. It's another good site. And a lot of things I found in some of the published journals, as opposed to random populations or controlled studies. And some of the published journals that are excellent is National Strength and Thing Association, very solid research, and American College of Sports Medicine, very solid research on a lot of different products. I suggest 3 or 4 of those you might be able to find or navigate your way. It's a lot of trial and error because, remember, a lot of stuff is very anecdotal, meaning he said, she said. Not a lot of science behind it. The things that had science I certainly wanted to bring to the forefront from you, like with the things on creatine from Dr. Holtzman and the United States Olympic Committee and what was banned. So this was a pretty good idea, or at least a navigating tool to start with.
X, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and thank you to everybody for stopping in to listen to this today. I know a lot of valuable information, and thank you again, Scott. We hope to have you back in the future, and we really look forward to seeing you in Toronto.
My pleasure, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you gave me the time, and I really share that from my heart. You got a lot of things to do, and you spent an hour with me, and I appreciate that you did.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much.